past, I've always been on the culinary stage, you know, walking through the benefits of the equipment. So this year, as an account manager, being out on the floor, we've had a very busy NAFM. It's actually the busiest one I've been to. This is my fifth one. We've had a huge concentration of people very interested in our business. Accelerated cooking technology, advanced cooking equipment, from the Mary Chef to the Lincoln to the Convatherm. All this kind of leads into the Merco products. You know, there's a lot of holding opportunities out there today, front of the house and middle of the house and back of the house opportunities. As operators are looking for more efficient ways to get the food out, you know, there's always the speed of service component, there's always the handling, and there's always the temperature and the food quality and things like that. And holding has really become a big piece of that. Whether you're cooking and holding or cooking to order, and you know, requiring that finishing product from the warmers, from the holding cabinets, from the fried food holding station, which is going to hold, you know, fried potatoes, fried proteins such as chicken tenders, you know, cheese sticks, things like that, fried vegetables. They're very critical pieces in that middle of the house area, sometimes depending upon the style of service, and in the back of the house as well. I can walk into any operation and speak the language and understand what their challenges are. And having worked in front of the house and back of the house in operations, I understand what those challenges are and what's going to make their life easier. And some of the things I wish I had when I was a traditional chef are working with the engineering teams to help improve the ergonomics and the flow, and maximize the efficiencies. You know, labor is always an issue. And consistency and quality are always an issue. So we can develop those products for them, then we're making their life easier. So when I work hand in hand with an operator, they don't have to train me specifically on the fundamentals of what food and beverage hospitality mean. I already have those fundamentals in place. I learn their processes and then begin to understand what solutions they can then consider, and we can then integrate that into their operation. It's a two-way street, you know, to your point. I mean, holding, you know, historically was keeping things warm, and there was, you know, very little I think attention, you know, put to the quality of it. It was just keep it hot, keep it over 145 or 165, and that was it. But obviously, you know, our consumers are demanding higher quality. So, you know, with these types of holding cabinets, the Merco Holding Cabinet, we can control temperatures above and below the food. We can keep in humidity. We can release humidity to really, you know, dial in that profile of the of what that operator is looking for. Is absolutely critical. In the fried food holding station, for instance, the fried potato is one of the hardest products on the planet to hold properly. You're holding texture, you're holding temperature, and you know, you're holding those things anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes. So it's critical that, you know, that you're serving a product that represents your brand. It's an amazingly critical piece of technology. So as we work with operators on their challenges, it's not only on, you know, how we're going to hold it, but how it's configured into their operation. You know, a lot of vertical space is being used now. It's cheaper real estate, bigger configurations, you know, larger holding, and things that you wouldn't necessarily think would be held, from, you know, from pancakes to proteins and sauces and soups. I mean, we're holding a variety of products in the same platform. You know, you may have a peak period from 11:30 to 2 where you're serving 450, 500 particular items. That's a lot of products. So depending upon, you know, what your labor needs to look like, if you can ramp up that production leading into that prep and leading into that service time, and you have a holding cabinet that can hold those products for 30 minutes and up to 4 hours and still delivering that you know, that quality of food, that's a tremendous savings. Not only in you know, the waste, you know, that may be involved in it, but it's really just that flow of the materials and the flow of the personnel through that operation. Our footprints are getting smaller, so we're not going to be able to put 10 people behind the line. You may have 3 or 4 or 5 people who are responsible for putting out hundreds of meals in a short period of time. And so that holding mechanism is important. You know, when you look at the Merco Holding Cabinet, you know, you're going to remove this bin, and this lid forms an airtight seal on this bin, but I don't have to fumble around with the lid. It's, you know, it's integrated into the piece of equipment. And so, you know, so a couple of years ago, that wasn't necessarily a big deal until somebody was no longer putting lids on it, and the quality of the temperature then just deteriorates. So integrating those things into the equipment is very advantageous. And in that holding realm as well, with that lid in there, we can really optimize the temperature of that food. So, because in a holding process, you can run the risk of continuing to cook that product, which, you know, continues to evacuate moisture from that product and deteriorate that product quality. So if we can keep it right at that holding point that's optimal for longevity and quality with that lid and with that temperature control, then we've really made some big gains for that operator. So being able to hold, to pre-cook those eggs and hold them for 30 to 40 minutes is really going to speed up the service as well. We're holding a lot of proteins in there. There are a variety of chains that we've worked with, from White Castle. We're working with Red Robin right now, and Tim Hortons, and Chili's, where we're holding proteins. We're batch cooking proteins once an hour. There's a schedule, based on how that traffic flow is coming into the restaurant. And we're cooking and holding these products. That's shaving minutes off of those ticket times. I mean, we're cutting ticket times in half because of being able to cook and hold at such a high quality. And that speed of service just continually relates into repeat business for the customer, and so that's how we're really delivering with these types of things. And you mentioned breakfast. I mean, breakfast is a key. Everyone is focused in on breakfast, from the major chains and QSRs to C-stores. How do we capture that breakfast component? And there's a very short period of time in which, the operator, the customer, has to get, they're going through a drive-through, and you've got 100-second drive-through times. So being able to cook and hold and have that ready to go, again, is critical in that speed of service. For every 6 to 8 seconds, I believe, we can reduce the amount of time the customer spends at the drive-through. It relates right to the top line. It's a metric that we all are aware of, and we all target. The control is very simple. We have 4 bins in this particular model that we can program, but you don't actually program the bin. And what I mean by that is you assign a configuration to the food product. So if I'm holding chicken breast, I know that I'm going to assign a lower temperature and an upper temperature and a time associated with that product. And so, through chicken and different proteins and eggs and vegetables, I can then configure these bins from one day part to the next. So if I know on Monday morning I need 3 bins of eggs and 1 bin of sausage, then that's how I can configure it. If on Tuesday I know I'm a little bit slower in a certain area, then I can simply kind of drag and drop that particular food item setting into each bin. So you have a very flexible holding cabinet from day part to day part, from food item to food item. So that's how we configure it with the Merco Holding Cabinet. It's assigned to the food product. You scroll through and just simply plug in that food product, and then those settings are automatically entered.